The first crack didn't come in the form of lipstick on a collar or a suspicious text message. No, it came on a Tuesday morning, one of those dull, gray mid-December mornings that smelled like overcooked coffee and deadlines. She was still on her girls' trip, some wellness retreat upstate with her college friends, supposedly off the grid. The house was still, untouched in her absence, save for the faint hum of the refrigerator and the slow tick of the clock in the kitchen. He had gotten up early, unable to sleep, not out of worry, just a restlessness that came from too much silence. He moved through the motions, brewed the coffee, opened the blinds, shuffled the mail. Nothing out of place. Until he saw it. It was nothing, really. A half-unwrapped bar of soap on the edge of the sink in the downstairs bathroom. White. Cheap. The kind hotels leave on the side of the sink, embossed with little meaningless swirls. He paused. His wife didn't use bar soap. She had a ritual lavender body wash, eucalyptus oil, exfoliating gloves, a regimen of scents and textures curated over years. She hated bar soap, said it dried her skin. He stared at it, the soggy paper sleeve torn and curled at the edges, already melting into the porcelain. It wasn't theirs. They hadn't stayed in a hotel in months. He hadn't brought anything like it into the house. It didn't belong. He picked it up, turned it in his hand. There was a name printed faintly on the wrapper, Cedar Ridge Spa and Lodge. He remembered the name. She'd mentioned it once, offhandedly, when talking about a place she'd seen on Instagram. But that wasn't where she said they were going. She'd said Vermont. A cabin. No reception, just the girls and wine and detox. He let the soap sit in his palm, slick and shrinking. Then he put it back exactly where he found it and sat down in the living room, suddenly still, like the walls had pulled closer. His phone buzzed. A photo from her, blurry and warm-toned. Her and two of her friends smiling by a fireplace, wrapped in flannel, wine glasses raised. He looked at the background. No logo, no signage, nothing to give it away. Just curated chaos. He stared at the image a while, trying to place the lighting, the texture of the stone behind them. Nothing definitive. But his eyes dropped to her neck. She was wearing the necklace he gave her last Christmas, a thin gold chain with a tiny diamond crescent. Only it wasn't hers. Not anymore. She had broken it 2 months ago. The clasp had snapped when she caught it on her sweater. He remembered because she'd cried about it. Genuinely upset. They'd meant to get it fixed, but the broken chain was still sitting in the dish by the dresser upstairs, unmoved. He stood slowly, walked up the stairs without knowing why, feet moving on instinct. Into the bedroom. To the dresser. The dish was empty. He didn't feel anger. Not yet. Just a tightening, like the oxygen in the room had thinned. A slow contraction in his chest. He walked to the closet, opened the doors. Everything looked untouched. But he knew her too well. One of the shelves was neater than it should have been, her lingerie drawer. Normally overflowing, disorderly in its luxury. Now a little too straight, too empty in one corner. He didn't count the missing pieces. He didn't need to. He closed the drawer and stared at the mirror above the dresser. He didn't speak. Didn't text her. Didn't call. His own reflection didn't blink. Instead, he walked downstairs, sat in the kitchen, and looked at the soap again. Small. Innocent. Insignificant to anyone else. But it didn't belong here. It wasn't supposed to be in his home, in their shared space. That tiny bar, with its fading hotel logo and its sour scent of cedar and lemon, had no alibi. It had wandered into the wrong life. And like a crack in glass, it wouldn't stay small for long. He looked out the window, at the frost-forming patterns on the edge of the glass. The kind of frost that creeps, silently and with purpose, leaving delicate fractures behind. And he smiled. Not with warmth. Not with grief. But with the slow, cold precision of a man who had just watched the first domino tip. There would be more. There always were. The trip ended, and she returned home just as she said she would on a Sunday evening, arms full of herbal teas and self-help books with titles like Untamed Grace and Becoming Whole. She hugged him at the door with a softness that felt practiced, not passionate, and her lips brushed his cheek like they'd forgotten the shape of his mouth. She smelled like pine and lavender, a scent not hers, but clearly bought for effect. She was glowing in that curated, Instagram-ready kind of way, as if peace had been painted over her in broad, manufactured strokes. He helped carry her bags in. She smiled, said she felt centered. And then she went upstairs and took a long, hot shower with the door locked. They still had dinner together. They still shared a bed. They still spoke, often. But the cadence was off. Words filled the space where touch used to live. Her laugh came half a second too late, like she was translating something in her head. She began using phrases that sounded pulled from a therapist's script. I just need more internal space. It's important to honor my solitude. We can grow beside each other without growing together. And she would say them with that sweet, therapeutic calm that made it impossible to argue without sounding cruel. But none of those phrases had room for him. He was adjacent, peripheral, a piece of furniture in her reinvention. She started locking her phone. Not immediately, not blatantly, but gradually. Her screen no longer lit up in front of him. She tilted it away now. The charging dock moved from the shared nightstand to her side of the bed, screen down. She said it was about boundaries. Said she needed a digital detox from social pressure, which somehow included him. She smiled when she said it. That smile was starting to haunt him, tight, precise, a smile that didn't touch her eyes or crease her cheeks. A smile that said she was rehearsing sincerity. He tested the waters once. Asked her about the necklace, the broken one. She blinked, then laughed softly, like he was being silly. I found a new clasp at the spa gift shop. Fixed it myself, she said, sipping her wine. You always underestimate me. But her fingers twitched as she said it, and her eyes flicked left just slightly, not enough for anyone else to notice. He didn't press. He just nodded, and the silence that followed stretched too long, frayed at the edges. She forgot their dinner plans one Thursday. A standing reservation, something they'd done for years. She came home 2 hours late, flustered and flushed, with no receipt, no leftovers, and a story about running into an old friend. She was just in the moment, she said. Isn't it beautiful when you lose track of time? He said nothing. She kissed him on the forehead and went to bed early. And still, he told himself to wait. To observe. He needed more than instinct. He needed a fracture he could name. It came on a Friday night, 2 weeks later. She was upstairs, doing a guided meditation in the bedroom, candles lit and sound machine humming through the walls. He was downstairs, cleaning up the kitchen when her laptop, long untouched, pinged with a calendar notification. Curious, he opened the screen. It wasn't locked. She never used it anymore, preferred her phone for everything. But the ping had come from a shared cloud drive. He clicked it. There were no messages. No love notes. Nothing explicit. Just a photo album. Untitled. Dozens of images, each named only by date. He scrolled. Most were harmless, scenery, meals, sunsets. But then he saw it. A photo of her, blurred slightly, standing on a hotel balcony. Not Vermont. He could tell by the background. It was too warm. The trees were wrong. The sky too crisp. She was barefoot, wearing a robe. Smiling. Whoever took the photo was close. She wasn't looking at the camera. She was looking at someone, off-frame. The look on her face was soft, open, and real. A look he hadn't seen in months. And she was wearing the necklace. Only this time, it caught the light in a way that made the chain glint differently. Not fixed, replaced. He stared at the photo, breathing slowly, letting the sound of the dishwasher fill the room. He clicked back, tried to find more, something that would confirm what he already knew. But the album ended. Nothing damning. No faces. No names. Just that one expression, held still in time, raw and unguarded in a way she no longer was with him. He closed the laptop gently, as if afraid to wake something sleeping. Upstairs, she was chanting softly with the meditation track, repeating words that sounded like forgiveness. The smell of her candle drifted down, sandalwood and smoke. He stood there for a long time, staring at nothing. Something had shifted. Not loud. Not shattering. But final, like a train switching tracks miles ahead, quiet, deliberate, inevitable. He said nothing. Didn't confront her. Didn't ask who took the photo or why it was saved. He simply began watching. Everything. Every glance, every touch, every carefully chosen word. Not with suspicion, but with certainty. He wasn't looking for proof anymore. He was waiting for opportunity. It happened in their kitchen, of all places, at 7:42 a.m. on a Wednesday, where routine used to live and trust used to breathe. She was rushing out the door, late for a meeting, coffee in one hand, phone in the other, hair damp and pulled back with the casual elegance of someone practiced in the art of being desired. He stood by the counter, buttering toast, playing the part. She kissed him on the cheek, the way people kiss pets, and said she'd see him at dinner. Then she left her phone on the table. Not unlocked, not forgotten, but left, deliberately face up. He waited until the garage door whined shut and the car pulled down the drive. Then he picked it up, pressed the home button, and the screen lit up. No passcode. Not that morning. It opened to a rideshare app, one she never used. A completed trip, timestamped 10 minutes earlier. Pickup, 5:32 a.m., drop-off, Cedar Ridge Spa and Lodge. That same spa from the soap wrapper, the one she never admitted going to. He stared at the screen for a moment, the glow painting his hand with the same chill he'd felt weeks ago, and then scrolled further down the history. The same ride had been taken every Wednesday for the past 5 weeks. Always 5:30 a.m. pickups. Always the same drop-off. And the drop-offs were never back home. She didn't return in the same car. She came back in a different one, separate transactions, different names. He put the phone down and stepped back, not out of shock but calculation. He knew what it meant. The spa wasn't a one-time thing. It wasn't even a lie. It was an alibi, a pattern dressed in wellness and self-discovery. She'd gone to the same place, the same time, the same way, week after week. She hadn't told him because it wasn't about him. It was about someone else. Someone who met her there. Someone who kept the chain around her neck and the smile on her face that never reached home. He opened the fridge, poured himself orange juice, and stared out the window as the neighbor's sprinkler came to life. And in that small, quiet domestic moment, he switched. He wasn't a husband anymore. He was a machine. He thought back to all the signs, the soap, the necklace, the locked drawer she claimed was just vitamins, the way her eyes glazed over during dinner like she was rerunning memories he wasn't in. It all slotted into place like teeth on a gear. She hadn't just cheated. She'd constructed a life with another man between 5:30 and 8 o'clock every Wednesday morning, then come home to him with the serenity of someone who thought she'd gotten away with it. He didn't rage. He didn't cry. He planned. A cold blueprint unfurled in his head, step by step. He would need time, precision, and someone she never expected. He already knew who. Her best friend, Nina. The one who used to call him the steady one. Who once drunkenly told him she couldn't believe how his wife had landed someone so patient, so golden. She was beautiful, lonely, and bitter in that quiet, neglected way that made people dangerous. He would use that, but not yet. First, he needed more information, dates, receipts, timelines. Not to confront her, to outplay her. He would never ask her about the rideshare. Never let her know what he knew. He would make her feel safe, untouchable. He would smile when she came home and ask how her day was. He would run the dishwasher, pay the bills, book the anniversary trip she kept putting off. And all the while, he would build. She would never see it coming. Not from him. Not from the man she thought would never act. And when the time came, when every piece was in place, she wouldn't just lose him. She would lose everything. He looked down at the phone once more, still glowing with her betrayal. Then he locked the screen, set it back exactly how she left it, and walked upstairs to make the bed, smooth sheets, no wrinkles, everything in its place. Just like she liked it. It happened in the living room, 3 days after her usual Wednesday morning ride, under the warm, flattering light of the pendant lamp she'd insisted on installing because it felt more inviting. She came in humming, tossing her keys onto the dish by the door, her yoga mat slung over her shoulder, eyes bright with the false glow of someone who thinks they're still the smartest person in the room. He was on the couch, laptop open, sipping his coffee like it was just another evening. "Hey," she chirped, dropping a kiss on his forehead. "Long day. I'm gonna shower before dinner, okay?" She turned, but he didn't answer. Just closed the laptop, slowly, and said, "How was Cedar Ridge this morning?" She froze, mid-step, just for a heartbeat, then turned back, smiling, but too fast. "What?" She laughed, like he'd told a bad joke. "What are you talking about?" He held her eyes. "Your ride history. You've been going there every Wednesday. Same time, same destination. And yet, not once have you mentioned it." Her smile wavered. "Oh my God, are you seriously tracking me now? That's what we're doing." Her tone shifted, mocked. "You're reading into everything. I go there for me, to reset. It's self-care, not a crime." But her voice pitched too high, and her bag slipped off her shoulder as she crossed her arms. "You really think I'd cheat at a spa? That's insane." He nodded slowly. "You don't go there to relax. You go there to meet him. Every week. 5:30 pickup. Rideshare in someone else's name. You come back in a different car. You hide it. Not because it's private. Because it's betrayal." She scoffed, tried laughing again, but it cracked this time. "You're being paranoid. It's not like that. You're just upset because I've grown, and you're still stuck in, he gave you the necklace," he said, cutting her clean. Her mouth shut mid-sentence. "The one you said you fixed yourself. The one you never fixed. I saw the photo." You were wearing it on a balcony that wasn't in Vermont. You were looking at him the way you used to look at me. Her arms dropped. That picture means nothing. It was one moment. I was confused. I was trying to find peace, and you were trying to find him, he said, voice calm as a blade. And you found him. While I was here, paying the bills, folding your clothes, pretending we were still us. Her face twisted, shifting now into defiance. You act like I owe you for something. Like being married means I can't have space to breathe. You think doing chores gives you ownership over me. He didn't flinch. No. But it gave me a front row seat to the woman you've become. Detached. Hollow. A performance. You say words like boundaries and healing like they're armor, but they're excuses. You're not growing. You're running. She stepped forward, suddenly sharp. You're just mad I didn't fall apart with you. That I wanted more than this routine. That someone else saw me when you stopped. I didn't stop, he said, rising from the couch now. I waited. I watched you drift, week after week, hoping you'd come back. But you didn't. You just got better at pretending. And worse at caring. Her lip trembled, just slightly. I didn't mean to hurt you, she muttered. It just happened. We connected. You and I weren't connecting anymore. Because you unplugged, he said. Because every time I tried, you turned away. And the worst part? You didn't just cheat. You made me feel like I was the problem. Like my confusion, my suspicion, my love, were symptoms of some failure you didn't want to admit. She sank onto the arm of the chair, voice softer now. I didn't know how to tell you. I thought maybe if I fixed it in secret, if I figured it out on my own, it would go away. He crouched slightly, leaning in. But you didn't want it to go away. You wanted both. You wanted the safety of me and the thrill of him. And you thought I'd be too dull, too devoted to notice. Her eyes glassed over now. Please, she whispered. Can we talk about this? Really talk? He tilted his head. We're talking. For the first time in months. And now you're asking for honesty? After weeks of lies wrapped in spa towels and enlightenment quotes? Her composure shattered. The tears came, but he didn't move to comfort. He just watched. And that was the final blow. She wasn't used to silence. She was used to being forgiven. He stood tall, expression unreadable. You lit this fire. Now you're standing in the ashes, surprised that everything burned. She reached for him, pleading now, voice shaking. I can explain everything, I didn't think you'd ever find out. He stepped back, measured and cold. That was your mistake. Thinking I'd never look. Thinking I'd never stop loving you long enough to see you clearly. She collapsed into herself, hands over her face, sobbing now, but he didn't move, didn't flinch. He just watched her fall apart. And for the first time in months, he felt whole. She sat there, collapsed into herself. Sobs turned to silence, face buried in her hands like she could disappear if she pressed hard enough. But when he didn't come to her, when the seconds stretched and no comfort came, she lifted her head and shifted. The cracks in her voice were still there, but now they shaped different words, strategic ones. You're overreacting, she said, wiping her face with shaking fingers, trying to find footing in a house that didn't feel like hers anymore. It wasn't what you think. You're blowing this up like I planned it all out. I was confused. I was lost. He didn't move, didn't blink, just stared at her like he was observing a stranger unravel. She stood, pacing now, eyes darting, voice rising. You act like you're perfect. Like you've never hurt me. Like I didn't spend years waiting for you to see me again, to want me the way you used to. You think I just woke up one day and decided to fall into someone else's arms? He finally spoke, calm and cold. No. You fell the day you stopped trying to stay. She faltered, eyes narrowing. You were distant too. You stopped laughing with me. You stopped noticing things. You acted like I was furniture, convenient, expected. You made this house quiet before I ever did. His reply came like steel. And instead of speaking, you whispered your name into someone else's sheets. That wasn't loneliness. That was betrayal. She snapped then, her face twisting. You'll never find someone who loves you like I did. He stepped forward, slow, deliberate. You're right. I won't. Because real love doesn't hide in hotel rooms. It doesn't lie with conviction. And it doesn't look you in the eyes while building an escape. She blinked fast, scrambling now. You think what we had was easy? I held you together when your father died. I stood by you when your job fell apart. I've been here, always here. He nodded once. You were here? But you were already gone. You became a shell with a routine. And when you finally decided to feel again, you gave it to him, not me. Her voice trembled. Please, please don't throw it all away. We can fix this. We can try therapy, or space, anything. He didn't laugh, But something colder passed through his expression. Therapy doesn't resurrect loyalty. And space? You already lived in it. You carved it between us every time you smiled at your reflection and came back pretending nothing happened. She was crying again now, loudly, hands trembling as she reached out. You don't understand. I didn't mean to fall for him. He made me feel something again. I didn't want to hurt you. He looked down at her hand, didn't take it. You didn't want to be alone. So you made sure I stayed warm while you kept someone else's fire burning. You didn't spare me pain. You delayed it, fed it week by week until it filled this house like smoke. She collapsed onto the couch, like the weight of his words had taken her legs out. Please don't leave me. Don't do this. Her voice cracked on the last syllable, desperation bleeding through every syllable. We've been through too much. You don't just walk away from a life like this. His eyes didn't soften. You did. One Wednesday at a time. She opened her mouth, but nothing came. Just air. She looked around the room like she was realizing, for the first time, that nothing in it was hers anymore. That the man standing across from her wasn't her husband, not anymore. That every trick, every deflection, every guilt-soaked plea was slipping from her hands like sand. And then came the silence. Heavy. Crushing. He didn't yell. Didn't curse. He just looked at her, hollow, emptied, free. And that silence was louder than any word he'd spoken. She covered her mouth like it could stop the sound of everything she'd destroyed. But there was nothing left to say. Nothing left to fix. Just the wreckage. And the man who had once begged for her honesty, now watching her fall apart with none left to give. She started showing up 6 weeks after the silence began, no longer radiant, no longer calculated, just a ghost in a hoodie, eyes swollen, posture collapsed inward like even gravity had turned against her. The man she left had moved on without her. The world she curated, the filtered life of flirty captions, inspirational mantras, and Wednesday morning escapes, collapsed when the truth leaked. It started small. A coworker asked too many questions. Then someone recognized the man she'd met at the spa from her tagged photos, the one she thought she hid. Her lover bailed first, told her he wasn't looking for anything serious, then blocked her across everything within hours of the fallout. Her job quietly let her go after rumors circulated, not because she cheated, but because she lied about where she was during work hours. Her friends tried to defend her at first, but once they learned how she'd spun them, made them alibis to a betrayal, most walked. Some with quiet judgment, others with public, vicious clarity. Her family stopped picking up. Her own sister, the one who used to idolize her, called him privately to apologize. Said she didn't know who her sibling had become. That made him laugh. Because neither did he. And that was the tragedy of it. Not the infidelity, not the gaslighting, not even the betrayal, but how utterly unrecognizable she became by the end. She texted him first. Just one line. I still love you. He didn't reply. 3 days later, a voicemail, her voice fragile, no performance left. We were soulmates. You know we were. I ruined it, but please, just talk to me. He listened to the whole thing in silence, then deleted it without a blink. What was there to say to a stranger with his name still in her phone, but none of them left in her heart? She came to his door once, and he opened it just long enough to see her eyes. No makeup, no armor. She looked up at him like a woman begging not for forgiveness, but for relevance. Please, she whispered. I'm not okay. I can't eat. I can't sleep. You were the only one who ever really saw me. He tilted his head. Not cruelly. Not coldly. Just distant. I don't see you now. She tried to cry again, but he didn't move. Didn't lean. She was reaching for a lifeline she'd already severed. He watched her break apart on his doorstep, and all he could feel was quiet. Not satisfaction. Not revenge. Just absence. Like someone watching an old movie they once loved, realizing the characters weren't who they thought they were, and the ending had already been written. She left eventually, slow steps down the driveway, glancing back like he might call her name. He didn't. Because the woman she used to be died the day she chose a stranger's comfort over her husband's love. And the woman who replaced her was no longer his problem. He didn't hate her. He just didn't recognize her. And that was worse. She became a cautionary tale not of cheating, but of erosion. Of someone so desperate to be worshipped that she forgot how to be loved. Of someone who thought lies could stretch forever without snapping. She sent one final message a month later. Do you think I'm a monster? He stared at the screen for a long time before replying. Just one line. No. I think you're empty. And he never heard from her again. Thanks for listening. Let me know where you're watching from, and what you would have done if it were your wife.